We have Mayuresh Joshi, Head of Equity Research at William O'Neill, who joins us on the show. Hi, Mayuresh. Since we discussed autos, what do you like out there? And give us a quick take on Ather. Ola wasn't a very good experience for a lot of investors, but now they're betting on a next name. Your take on this EV theme?
Afternoon, Nigel. So again, I think if you probably look at numbers, right, numbers are not encouraging by far. And therefore, I think how numbers will play out, specifically on the bottom line, is going to be extremely critical for Ather as well. And therefore, I think when you're talking about how numbers will play out, how competition intensity is expected to play out as well, you've seen all the big players in the space have their launches done. They are having some teething issues there as well. How pricing will play out. I think all those things are going to matter a lot. And let's not forget, I think the overall ecosystem in terms of dealerships, distribution, after sales are a very critical component in terms of the entire ecosystem as far as two-wheelers or even four-wheelers are concerned. So my own sense is that within the two-wheeler pack, a stock like a TVS Motor, which has done exceptionally well, the expectation still continues that the kind of dealers, distributors that they are adding on are quite significant. The expectations of them able to maintain their EBITDA margin should be quite significant as well. Their EV launch, the iQube, is expected to do reasonably well. It is doing reasonably well. But as they scan other markets as well, I think the expectation largely in terms of volume and price related growth should continue. So for Ather, I think my own sense is I will give it a pass. I think you've got better, bigger players who are probably doing a lot more, who have done a lot more, and therefore TVS probably remains top of rack as far as MarketSmith India is concerned. As clear disclaimer, this stock remains onto our global portfolios and global clients may be only list.
Mayuresh, some of these AC makers, there was a lot of talk that it's going to be a scorching summer. So some of them should do well. However, reports are now indicating that the sales haven't been as good, both for refrigerators as well as for ACs. How do you approach this theme? Stocks like Voltas had run up in anticipation. Blue Star, in fact, has come off close to 15-20% in the last 1 month or so. Your take?
Well, numbers have been a little bit disappointing on Apple, Nigel, no two ways about it. But I think the expectation is that with scorching temperatures happening over the last few days and last couple of weeks, and expected to remain so well through May, well through June, the sales should rebound quite significantly. Significantly, again, I think what you've probably seen in terms of the dealers and the distributors that have increased, specifically in tier 2 cities. I think it's no longer a phenomena that remains stuck to urban cities. And therefore, the penetration perspective in terms of AC sales to cooler sales is going to improve drastically over the next few quarters. Having said that, I think from an immediate near-term perspective, my own sense is that recovery should probably happen over the next couple of months. You should see a significant amount of recovery, both in terms of volumes as well as pricing. And therefore, I think the kind of underperformance that all these stocks have probably exhibited at this juncture, and Blue Star probably has remained one of the most resilient stocks, Nigel, over the last few weeks, last few quarters, as far as this entire segment is concerned. I think the kind of market leadership that they probably got, the kind of models that they've probably introduced, the inverter sales specifically within their AC models, which have shown a steady, stable uptake. I think that should probably continue. So my own sense is that not too perturbed with the kind of fall you've probably seen. There is some sense of recovery that can get expected. Blue Star still remains top of the run.
Okay. All right. Mayuresh, hi. Good afternoon. Good to have you on the show. I'm just looking at some of the result reactions as they've played out. Vishal, Mega Mart definitely stands out, right? But what solid growth, 20% plus kind of growth, almost quarter on quarter. Stocks up 10%, by the way, right now. That's Vishal Mega Mart. And this year, it has done better than the Nifty, better than the market, with a gain of almost 11% for 2025. That's today's performance. Obviously, it's a recent listing, so that being the caveat. Your thoughts on the retail space, and would you buy any of these?
So, Surabhi, I think I'll have a close watch. I think Vishal gave super numbers, but even V2 retail as an example, or Mart retail as an example, I think if one really assumes and presumes that consumption will come back for both factors, one, I think because of the budgetary announcements done and the tax cuts that have got announced, the first half and specifically the second half coinciding with the festive season should see a huge rebound happening specifically in tier 1 cities. As far as tier 2, tier 3 cities are concerned, which is more semi-urban, rural in nature, the expectations of better monsoons this time round. Rabi output will be out in the markets. If monsoons are better, and one hopes it should be, the Kharif season should be equally good as well, with an equally better Rabi season to follow. Would mean rural discretionary spending and rural discretionary consumption should come back very, very strongly. And because I think the presence of Vishal Mega Mart, V2 Retail, V-Mart is largely and predominantly in tier 2, tier 3 cities, along with tier 1 as well, I think a mix in terms of recovery of rural consumption along with urban consumption should probably reflect in numbers being better in the second half. Again, the mix that V-Mart and V2 Retail have is predominantly apparel compared to a Vishal Mega Mart, which is 44% apparel and the rest between FMCG and other discretionary. And therefore, I think the margins for V2 Retail, V-Mart are relatively better. Same sales store growth should also start holding out. And because of that, I think core dynamics, both in terms of average spend, the expectations in terms of revenue per square feet, and SSG growth should probably improve quite significantly in the second half. So I'm keeping a close eye on these apparel makers, which in my opinion should do well in the second half.
Mayuresh, 30 seconds. Any thoughts? Zomato.
We would wait for numbers, Prashant. I think, honestly, I think they have been accelerating their dark stores, and that's the strategy that they've adopted. And clearly, it's to counter competition quite clearly. Bima was just mentioning Reliance. We are hearing about Amazon. We are hearing about other large players who are also probably trying to do some localized bit in terms of food delivery as well. And let's not forget the local Kirana Walas who are probably up there as well. And therefore, I think the competition is going to be intense. Numbers are going to be soft, not just for this quarter, I think for the next 2 to 3 quarters, because their expansion spree is going to be very, very aggressive. So I think I'll wait out for numbers and then take them.
Thank you, Mayuresh, for joining in. As we close out today's trading session, market slipped in the last 30 minutes.